Hi, good morning. It's Ian Thompson, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, a place people go to find out about all things real estate here on Vancouver Island. And before I get started, if you like the channel, make sure you subscribe to the button down below. And if you'd like to book an appointment with me to talk about your own situation with real estate, then you can hit that little button. It's called Calendar, and we'll set an appointment right away. Okay, now first to my guest today, please welcome Kim Ross. Hi, Kim.
Hi, good morning.
Kim Ross is a mobile mortgage broker with the TD and many years of experience, Kim. How many years of experience?
I have 41 with TD and 21 in my current role as a mortgage specialist.
Wow. So needless to say, you're a local expert.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you hold me accountable to that too.
Well, we always like your advice, and thanks for coming on the show today. And we're going to talk about a new government program regarding secondary suites. But, you know, before we get there, I thought maybe just because it's what you do, your thoughts on rates today and the impact it's having on buyers.
Okay, thanks, Ian. Very good question. That's on everyone's mind.
Yeah.
Yes, rates, we're looking up in the low sixes now for 5-year. Is what we've been looking at. And a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, I was doing that at 1.69. So very big difference. But keep in mind too, I didn't offer those rates in 30 years of lending. I never was able to offer a 5-year at 1.69. So it was a one-time option. Today, with rates being higher, as we still have to do the stress test, we are looking at clients having to maybe reduce the size of their mortgage that they currently qualify for on their home. But there are lots of people are now looking at purchasing with family, looking at purchasing with a rental suite to have that mortgage helper. So we're seeing lots of that happening today.
Okay, so which is a great lead into what we're going to talk about today. So I'm just going to share the screen so we can see what we've got here. And this is a new program. You introduced this at our sales meeting a couple of weeks ago, and thank you for doing that as always. But this is from the provincial government. And, you know, we could say, Kim, that density is what it's all about in 2023, isn't it, with the Premier? And how do we get more people in less space?
Oh, for sure. Even if you look around Nanaimo, you're looking at apartment buildings, condo buildings popping up everywhere. You're looking at duplexes or any multifamily filling in any pockets in and around Nanaimo. So you're seeing lots of that for sure.
So the government's going to have many programs. One of them is this new one, and it's the BC Secondary Suite Incentive Program. And overall, before we get into the details, it's the province's way of encouraging Ian and Carol Thompson to put a secondary suite into our house.
That's correct, Ian. Yes, to help out both with those who cannot afford to purchase a home and also to give them an affordable rent.
So that's going to be the kicker with this program. You know, the government's going to give us money to put this suite in, but of course it comes with a catch that you need to rent it at below market rent.
That's correct. Yeah. And when we go through the slides here, I've got an example of what that might be today for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's just start right at the beginning here. You carry on, and I'll ask questions as we go.
Okay, perfect. So yes, everyone, the BC Secondary Suite Incentive Program, they're accepting applications starting April 2024, and they're for suites. You're getting your permits and starting your build April the 1st, 2023. So if you've already started your suite just after April of this year, make sure you keep all of your receipts, including any costs for plans, anything you've done to date. Be sure to keep those receipts because they'll become very important. So what is the plan? The BC government is offering up to $40,000 towards building a new affordable rental suite in your home. And that's the key word. It must be on your current property. They provide money to help owners create a secondary suite on the property to be rented out for below market rent. And we'll touch on that on the next slide. So homeowners who qualify will receive up to 50% of the cost of renovations, minimum $10,000, maximum $40,000. So that means your minimum renovation must be $20,000 up to a maximum of $80,000. And of course, anything beyond that will be your dime. This will come via a rebate in the form of a forgivable loan. So it's not a cash rebate that you'll be receiving. It's
Okay.
an actual loan that the government will put in place. And it does not have to be repaid if you follow the terms of the program. And terms of the program, next slide, Ian.
Okay, just before I do have a question now. Does this get registered on title?
Yes, it will. We'll be registering the full amount plus the legal cost. Will be registered on title. So a couple things on that. And actually, if you flip to the next slide,
Okay.
it does talk about that. And,
Okay.
and I will go through that in a little more detail.
Okay.
So qualifications, you must be a registered owner, Canadian citizen or permanent resident with a combined annual gross or net income of 209,420, and they will confirm that via your tax returns. So you will most likely have to submit tax returns, and they'll be looking to add up those to make sure you're within that dollar amount. The home has to be located within 161 incorporated municipalities in BC. So Central Vancouver Island, for instance, we've got Nanaimo, we've got Parksville, we've got, Nanaimo, Duncan, Ladysmith is on there. We've got Parksville, Qualicum Beach, Lanceville is on there, and of course, North and South as well. So it does have to fall within that. The one thing I didn't see, Ian, was I didn't see Cedar on there. So it depends on your mailing address. So sometimes Yellow Point Cedar still has a Nanaimo mailing address, so you might be fine there. So we'd have to fine tune that one.
Okay.
The legal self-contained unit has to have your full kitchen, full bathroom, and having received municipal permits starting April the 1st, 2023. So as I mentioned, if you've already started it, you can still qualify for this. Be sure to keep all your receipts. So what's important too is a lot of people will just do a suite in their main residence. However, if you are permitted to put in a laneway or a garden home, those are eligible as long as they're on your principal residence. But keep in mind, improvements are not eligible. So we had a great question at the meeting about if I have an unauthorized suite and I want to make it a legal suite, that will not qualify because it is a renovation to an existing suite.
And this is all about new.
Brand spanking
Brand
new.
new.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Starting April 1st after. Okay. The new unit located on the principal residence and must be rented out below market rents as set out the BC housing for at least the first 5 years. So I went to the site, BC Housing, Nanaimo 1 bedroom, 1,225, 2 bedroom, 1,622 a month, and 3 bedroom, 1,646 a month. So you have to make sure each year you are below that. So if you rent a 2 bedroom out for 1,620 a month, you're good to go. So Ian, we had a little bit of chat about that, about being worth your while or not. And I know you had a question on that.
Well, the government's giving me this grant, but I'm, handcuffed, basically saying, the government's telling me this is your rate for 5 years. Does it work out to be, is it a wash for me? Am I coming out ahead in this? Or should I just say, hey, I'm just going to go borrow the money from you and put my suite in charge whatever I want?
Okay. So some good questions there, right? And good valid points. A lot of forecasting we can't do. So let's make the assumption that today, the 2 bedroom, if we do it, let's say none of the amounts change. So a 2 bedroom at 1,622 times, you have to do it for 5 years, times 60 payments. I worked out would be 97,000 and change. And then you had mentioned a 2 bedroom would rent out today for about 2,200 a month.
Yep, I think that's reasonable.
When we talked at the meeting about that. So that would be 132,000 if we did that stable over the 5-year term. So the difference you're looking at is, say, 35,000 rounded up. We'll call it 35,000. But you're going to get 40,000 from the government. So you're up about 5,000 interest free. And so you don't have to come up with the money. You can get the suite put in right away for that. Okay. Now, you do have to, pay for the suite.
Yeah, you pay for it in
You
advance,
get the
right?
money, right? Because you've got to have it in place before they do the loan, the forgivable loan. So you do have to have the money up front for that. Bearing in mind, as the rents go up, the housing market rents should be going up as well. Although, again, we can't forecast that. So what might be a thought is that, say your renovation, we're talking about the maximum, and you receive 40 grand, then you would pretty much come out even. However, and you'd have a suite in your home that you didn't have to pay for. So you're actually ahead of the game there. But if the suite only cost you 20,000, then you've got a $20,000 difference there, but you'd have the suite in your home as well to account for that.
Sometimes there's rules around, it has to be a licensed person doing it, or if my dad and I can do a lot of this work ourselves, is that okay? Does it matter?
It has to meet all of the standards for the city. So they will, you have to have all the permits. So you will have to have a licensed electrician, a licensed plumber come in and do it. So if your dad is a licensed plumber, then absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. But the items putting in the floor and that, not so much licensed. It's just the main trades that you will have to have in there to be able to meet the city permits, because you do have to get occupancy for it, and you will have to have all permits in place.
And I'm sure the government's going to want to see that rental agreement. So this point at the bottom, if qualifications aren't met each year, then it's payback time. The government just
that is correct. So you will have to claim that rent on your income tax each year. They'll want a copy of the tenancy agreement. They may ask for 12 months deposits in your account. We don't have all those details as of yet, how they're going to maintain checking compliance each year. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's go into, how do we get rid of this loan over time?
Yes. So to meet the qualifications and that, so the rebate amount, including a legal cost. So there will be a legal cost of $2,000, which is, in essence, your dime, because you will be paying it in the end. Right. Will be registered on title for 5 years as a forgivable loan. So what's important about that is, if, let's say I'm going to buy a home and I'm going to put that suite in there. So I want to buy the home. I want to get my mortgage in place first, right? And then apply for the suite, because most banks want their mortgage in first position. Okay. They're not going to come behind the forgivable loan. So flip that. I own my home already, and I want to be able to put a suite in it, but I need to get the 40,000 to build the suite before I can apply for the loan. So I might, behind my current mortgage, I might do a home equity line of credit for 40,000, use that money to build the suite, and then apply for the forgivable loan, because then they're going to come in behind the bank.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's extremely important. You don't want them registering a charge on your home, and then you have to go and get a loan to pay your parents back for the 40 that you might have borrowed to build the suite. Yeah. So you got to do the right process there. I did check with the bank, and again, I've checked with TD Bank. Of course, check with your own lender as well. We will not come in behind them. And we actually, our product area was kind enough, they even phoned BC Housing, and they will not give us a priority agreement on that. Okay. Okay,
the first point here, property continues to be the principal residence. So I can't move out and rent upstairs and go live somewhere else. I have to stay there.
That is correct. So that is one of them, that with the first 5 years of receiving that loan, you are in that home. And you must stay there for the full 5 years and have that suite rented out. The tenant cannot be immediate family, so they can't be your spouse, child, parent, or sibling. That is not included as well. For the 5 years, the rent has to be below the rent affordability limits as established by BC Housing. And the secondary suite, they're giving a little bit of a grace time for 10 months in the preceding year. and tenancy is under the agreement that complies with the Tenancy Act, either month to month or minimum 1 year fixed term tenancy. The reason they give that 10 months little bit of leeway there is, let's say, Ian, you rented my home, you decided to move out. They're giving me a bit of time to maybe tidy it up and get it rented out again. So it isn't something that they want to see that it's rented every 10 months, every year. It's just gives you allowable to find another tenant should your current tenant leave.
And just, I just thought of this for clarity. It's still my tenant relationship with the tenant. It's not BC Housing finding me a tenant, putting them in my house.
Great question. And you're absolutely correct. Your home, your tenant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as you're renting it out for below. And I would go to the BC rent. You can go tenancy agreement and just use the BC one, and then you're covered when you're following under theirs. Yeah.
So if you were doing some long-term planning, this makes sense. I'm just sort of, I was with some people yesterday and they were talking about, their parents might come and live here in 5 or 6 years, retire and live with them. Here's a way to put a suite in your house and have below income rent, which we talked about, it's going to pay off anyways. And then your family can move in 5 years because it's over, right?
That's great planning. Yeah. Once the 5 years is over, you've met all of your conditions, then you're free to rent it or let family move in. Absolutely. Yeah. And the forgivable amount is a 20% each year that you maintain the requirements. So on the next slide here, we've given an example, and this would be using the full 40. So let's say I built my suite, it was $80,000. And because half of it will be covered, the loan remaining would be 42. So upon occupancy of the suite, they're going to register on your title the forgivable loan of 42,000, right? 50% of the cost to build the suite, assuming it was 80,000, and then the 2,000 legal charge. So after year one, met all my requirements, they're going to forgive 20%, which in this case is 84,000. I now owe 33,600. Year 2, year 3, year 4, I follow each year. And by year 5, I now have been forgiven 40,000. Okay. So again, it's up to 50% of your cost, maximum 40,000 rebate to do that. But let's say year 2, hey, this isn't working for me and I want to move out. So I decide to move out and do a full rent, or I decide to sell the home.
Yes.
When the home is sold, I must pay back, whatever is owing. So after year 2, I would still owe 25,200. I would have to pay that back upon this with the sale proceeds.
So another reason you want to think this through clearly before you jump in, oh, this is a great idea for me. And then 2 years, like, oh, we got to sell, but you have to pay it back. It doesn't just go away because it doesn't transfer to the new buyer.
Correct. Yes. So if you sell, it gets paid off with the proceeds. If you move out and you rent it out at your own discretion, or your family maybe moves in there, then you've stopped meeting the qualifications. They will catch up with you and they will demand payment.
The government tends to do that, don't they? The government tends to catch up. They might be a little slow sometimes, but at the end of the day.
But they will eventually catch up. Yeah. So for some, this is a great, I think a great product that they've brought out to help you. You just have to get past in your mind the below market rents, because 1, you are helping out in the community, and 2, you're, depending on how much your suite costs, you will get the majority of that back.
So can you work this into mortgage plus improvements to get this government loan? Can you walk that through? Perhaps talk about mortgage plus improvements. I'm going to go to the bank and say, I want to put a suite in, Kim, and I'm going to also get this government program to get that money back. That can happen, right?
Absolutely, because you're going to do all of this and get your suite done right before you apply for that loan. So purchase plus improvements is exactly that. You buy your house, you do some improvements. So let's say, Ian, you buy your house for 500,000 and it's going to cost you 50,000 to put the suite in. So you still have to put in your down payment. So what you provide your lender with is a copy of the offer to purchase, and then you must go out and get quotes. So you need to do this before you're subject to removal. You'll
Okay.
need to go out and get quotes. The easiest is from a contractor to be able to put the suite in. You can get 10 or 15 quotes if you want. The bank only wants one, and we're looking for a respectable quote, because once that deal is advanced, if that suite ends up costing you more, that's your pocket, right? Because we've already put the mortgage in place.
So it
So
can't be, again, back to the thing, I know I have friends who are carpenters and plumbers, and we're going to do it for half the banks. That's not good enough. I have to have actually somebody with a licensed builder show me.
no, if you're doing it with a contractor, it's a nice easy quote, right? Here's my one quote. If you prefer to do it in pieces, then that's perfectly fine. But then we're looking for a quote from a plumber, a quote from a electrician, carpenter. Then you've got to gather all those quotes. So a little more work for you might save you some money in the long run. That's perfectly fine with us. We just need it clear and concise. This is what's being built, right? 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, what kind of flooring, that sort of thing. How's the bath look? Because then what happens is we take your purchase agreement plus your quotes and we submit that to the underwriter, be it Canada Mortgage and Housing if you're putting less than 20% down, or the regular lender if not. They're going to look at what you're building. And so let's say I am spending $50,000 on the suite. So now, and they value it at 50 it will bring 50,000 value to the house. Okay. So now when I put in the purchase price, I'm putting in 550,000 as opposed to just 500 purchase price. Okay. So if I was only putting 10% down on a 500 purchase price, I only have to put 50,000. But on a 550, now I have to put 55,000 down, right? It's 10% of the purchase price plus the improvements. So that's basically how that works. Then again, you need to, at completion, we'll give the money to the lawyer to buy the house. Mm-hmm. We're going to hold back the money for that suite. Okay. We're not going to give it to you in hopes that you build the suite. We're going to hold it back until you build the suite. So once the suite is built, more than likely we'll have an inspection done to make sure it's done. Sometimes if it's with a reputable contractor, we just get receipt from them that it's completed. If you start doing it yourself, we're coming in to have a look to make sure it is done.
That makes sense.
And then it is, once we know that it's fully complete, that's when we would release the 50,000. So again, you still have to have that money up front to get it done.
One way or the other, you need the money up front.
You bet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then that mortgage is in place. Then you can apply, right, for the rebate. So if it was Bank of Mom and Dad, you could just pay them back. If it was just straight purchase plus improvements and you were able to get it all through there, then you could use the prepayment, the allowable prepayment on your mortgage and pay down the mortgage. So for TD Bank, it's 15% of the original mortgaged amount per calendar year.
Okay.
Okay. So you could pay that down and then request your mortgage payment because you're making a sizable amount. You could ask to have your mortgage payment reduced to account for that as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay. If you put 1,000 down as a prepayment, it's not going to reduce your mortgage payment. But if you put a sizable 50, that might reduce it to help you out a little bit in the back end. Yeah. So again, check with your lender to see what they allow you to do. Yeah.
So Kim, just like, I guess as a way of a summary, is there anything why you wouldn't do this? Is there any that you've done a lot of digging on this that you're thinking, geez, I don't know if this would be right for this particular kind of person, or would it work for anybody?
Yeah, I think it's going to be based on the cost of the suite. So if you're doing it and it's very minimal because you're doing a lot of work yourself, then that might not benefit you in the long run. But if you're doing like a full suite and bringing in a contractor and it is costing you, then yeah, this might work very well for you. So don't forget, as you know, a lot of people say, well, every year I can increase my rent on a regular home. I would, and again, I have to assume that the BC Housing will be increasing those minimum ones as well.
3.5%. That's what it is this year, but who knows? Every year it's regulated, right?
Correct. Yeah. So there is a lot of unknowns that will always remain unknown. And in 5 years, after you've done your suite, I'll let you know if you made the right decision or not.
All right, we'll hold you to that. We'll have you back here in 5 years. Not, we'll have you back before that. Anyways, well, that's great, Kim. Thank you. Now, how do people get a hold of you?
You can certainly call me anytime at 250-667-3550 or email kim.ross@td.com. Get a hold of Ian. He'll know where to find me as well.
I'll hunt you down. Okay, that's great. Thanks, Kim.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day.